Welcome back to Teachable Moments with April. This is Mindful Monday. I will be reading from How to Stay Centered No Matter What. The Power of Will by Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett. I use my power of will to choose, to commit, and to be willing. As someone who has studied and taught about the 12 powers for several years, I have heard many students say they steer away from the power of will. It's easy to confuse the power of will with willpower, which often fails. Just think about New Year's Eve resolutions. Or to believe that your will is imposed by God, which means it is unwelcome and hard. Neither of these understandings inspire the practice of spiritual will, and neither explain the potential of our great innate power of will. Will is the spiritual capacity to choose, to commit, and to be willing. Although a choice involves effort, to choose is not to force. There seems to be a sweet spot in the balance between effort and allowing, where will becomes powerful. The power of will is less about exerting control over what is happening and more about choosing our response to what is happening. A common message in unity is God's will for you is prosperity or joy or love or health. Let's work with health as an example. What does it mean to say that God's will for you is health? It helps to interpret God metaphysically. What do we mean by God? In popular translation of the Lord's Prayer, we read, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." God is the heavenly or ideal. In relation to health, God is the ideal state of wholeness and well-being, the principle of health. Charles Fillmore taught that our I am or Christ nature is linked to divine mind, and therefore it is possible for us to manifest on earth as it is in heaven. Fillmore wrote, "The simple statement, 'I will to be well,' gathers the forces of mind and body about the central ideal of wholeness, and the will holds the center just as long as the I am continues its affirmation." Christian Healing, Unity Books, 1909. Jean, diagnosed with severe autoimmune disorders, experiences chronic symptoms such as joint inflammation, fatigue, mental fog, and body pain. Getting out of bed each morning requires monumental effort, and relentless symptoms scream for her full attention. A student of Unity, Jean has been cultivating her innate power of spiritual will to transform her experience of daily living. Before rising from bed each day, Jean devotes a few minutes to spiritual and mental activation of will, affirming, "I will to be well." Jean chooses to anchor her attention on the principle of wholeness and well-being. She recognized signs of divine life in her body and mind, appreciating that even with the physical limitations of her current circumstances, she is capable of living fully. Activating the power of will physically, Jean promises herself, makes a commitment to demonstrate wholeness and well-being in one particular way and to do it daily. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place, and that's what I love about it. when I came across it, actually on Spotify. And I thought, I'd always been wondering how to do it, how to make that transition into it. And Anchor has made it so easy. And I am so glad that I have found it. And I've started my podcast for my social skills group. And hopefully I can use it for my students as well in my class. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Understanding that some days she feels better than others. She selects a practice that is responsible and reasonable and definitive and definite, that can be done in 15 minutes per day, and that proves her true wholeness and well-being. For several weeks, Jean committed to yoga breathing exercises to stimulate circulation and healthful body chemistry. At other times, Jean committed to mindfulness meditation, conversations with supportive friends, reading about the principle of wholeness and well-being, or journal writing about all that is going well in her life. Jean finds that committing to one practice each day is not only possible, it is the sustaining power of will. It is the I am continuing its affirmation. Sometimes honoring her commitment is the last thing Jean wants to do. At such times, Jean draws upon the aspect of will that says, even though I'd rather not, I am nevertheless willing. Notice that Jean focuses on fulfilling her will to be well rather than trying to control her symptoms. Will is at its best when directed toward our inner spiritual capacity to fulfill the principle rather than fixate on the circumstances and conditions appearing at any moment. This focus gathers the forces of mind and body that transform us and our circumstances. A prayer of will. Holy Spirit, we believe in and submit to your will, knowing it is the perfect plan for our lives. As spiritual beings, we know we do not function or exert our will independently, but rather act in partnership and perpetual connection with you. When we venture outside of this covenant and opt to do our own thing, we become willful, having or showing a stubborn, determined intention to do as we want. Having no desire to be out of alignment, we commit to staying aligned with your amazing grace and limitless love. We stand in the truth that your will for us is always our highest good. Fabian M. Thomas, Kingston, Jamaica. My final thoughts. I feel like this particular story on the power of will, as well as this prayer, ties in perfectly with my last two podcasts on Friday as well as Saturday, as well as me sharing an account I had in a conversation that I had with a coworker on regards of me explaining to her and sharing with her that a lot of times I'm noticing that when I do stuff, it's not of my own making. It's something working through me. And I know that it's doing it for my own well-being, and I'm coming to the point of trusting it more. And when I do that, things always work out well. They never work out bad. I noticed that. And it has to do with this. And I'm just really blown away by this, because it says that and points out our spiritual aspect. We're imperfect human beings. We're flesh and bone, if I said before. But we are at our core, the other element of us is spiritual beings. And when we work in partnership and connection, perpetual connection with that, we can't go wrong, okay? And working in alignment with the forces that made us, our spirit, the thing that drives us, our soul, whatever your beliefs are, we are being in accordance, and our life will run much better. When we fight it, we second guess, we lean on our own understanding. This is when we run into a lot of trouble. We must not disconnect from our fellow human beings. We must not. And I know that is what is one of many problems now. And when you look out in your day-to-day activities and dealings with other human beings, you see the disconnect. If you look into their eyes, a lot of times people are very vacant. They're very vacant, and they're very easily agitated and enraged even. The anger, the rage is in their eyes. So this is a call for action for everyone that can hear my voice and that can understand what I am saying. Is that you must be vigilant with yourselves. We cannot control outside elements and environments, but we can deal with it on our own. We can by the power of will, and with God's help, the Creator's help, we can realign ourselves. Okay, it starts with you. Okay, so I constantly have to remind myself that every day, all day long. Okay, and be vigilant. So as always, I say, please be vigilant. Remember these prayers and these stories that people are gracious enough to share with us, and I know they're sharing it because they're being moved by the Holy Spirit. And please, please, please be well, be blessed, and please stay safe.